Welcome to the mind of Sai Marie. So, if you've been rocking with me for any length of time since I began this podcast, you know I don't mince words. I don't smooth over edges to make uncomfortable truths easier for weak stomachs to digest, and I sure as hell don't sit quietly while people try to normalize audacity. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something that hit my doorstep twice in less than a week. We're talking about the rotting infrastructure of modern male entitlement, specifically the main character syndrome, the gross disrespect for women's boundaries, and the absolute garbage defense mechanisms men use when you call them out on their trash. But even more than that, we're going to be talking about the enablers. We're going to be talking about women who sit on the sidelines, acting oblivious, giggling, deflecting, and pretty much just acting completely oblivious to the disrespect that is occurring in their spaces while toxic men insult and disrespect their supposed friends. We're unpacking the anatomy of a fake gentleman, the weaponization of it's just a joke to gaslight, and the dangerous complicity of passive female friendships. Also, why the reaction to women speaking out against violence and harassment is always with threats, fat shaming, and ad hominem attacks. So, grab yourself a drink or whatever keeps you grounded, because we are cleaning the house today. So, let's start with an incident from July 29th that spilled right over into August 2nd. I was on a friend's live stream. My friend had a co-streamer, a dude. They were talking about a mutual female friend who happened to be in the chat discussing potential dating options for matches for her. Standard women's chatter, right? Two women having a conversation, evaluating possibilities. Out of nowhere, the male co-streamer jumped in and says, "It ain't me, I got a girl." And then, without anyone asking him, without anyone offering him a seat at that table or that discussion, he goes, "Hold on, let me go see what she looked like." Stop right there. Look at the layers of arrogance in that single interaction and sentence. First off, who said you were in the consideration? Nobody was talking to you, nobody offered you up as an option, and nobody asked for your rating on a woman's appearance. But because patriarchy conditions men to believe that every room, every conversation, and every woman exists as a potential buffet for their validation, this man had to center himself. Second, you claimed you have a girlfriend. A real gentleman, a man with actual integrity and respect for his partner, does not jump onto a live stream, announce that he's taken, and then immediately say, "Let me go peek at what this other single woman looks like." You shouldn't even be looking. Taken men who possess actual honor do not insert themselves into women's conversations to signal availability or check out the options. When I called him out directly right then and there, when I told him you aren't a gentleman if you got a chick and then go look, you shouldn't even be looking, and who said you were being considered, what happens? The pivot. The pivot to claiming to be a nice guy. What the fuck ever. Fast forward to August the 2nd. The same exact dude. I'm in the live stream again, this time invited. My woman friend asks me what I'm up to in the chat, and I mentioned that I'm making a video, and this stupid fucking man, this same individual, interjects his disgusting, unsolicited, perverted opinion out of nowhere to ask me about porn. I was immediately fucking furious. When I immediately set the boundary and let him know that I'm not impressed by that raunchy, out-of-pocket disrespect, his immediate next reflex was, "I'm sorry, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. I was just kidding." That's a classic red flag. That's classic narcissistic asshole playbook fucking gaslighting. How fucking dare you speak to me like that, out-of-pocket motherfucker? The push the boundary test on how much disrespect you'll tolerate, and the second you call them out with a spine and clarity, they retreat behind a shield of humor. "It's just a joke. You're taking it too seriously." No, it's not a fucking joke. It's a test of access and how much they can get away with. It was an attempt to degrade the conversation and assert themselves in a dominant way in a space that they were not even fucking requested. My female friend asked me a question, directly addressed me with my name and everything. And this fucking dude thought he had the right to fucking steamroll right over it and put his fucking self in the middle of my conversation about my content and what the fuck I was doing. How fucking dare you, bro? Bastard ass fucking behavior. And as infuriating as this man, and I say that lightly because this ain't how a man acts, this is how a fucking child behaves. His behavior was unacceptable. And what happened next made my blood boil even hotter. And this is where we need to have a real uncomfortable talk about female friendship and safety. Right after he says this raunchy, disrespectful shit to me on a live and tries to play it off as a joke, I state I am not impressed. And what does the host do? The woman who is supposed to be my friend, what does she say? She goes, well, not impressed with what, Sai? Your video? Are you kidding me? Are you completely oblivious to what this fucking asshole just said to me? Or do you just want to pretend like it didn't happen? And just gloss on by it? Seriously? That is active deflection, acting like she didn't just hear that man speak to me like I was a piece of meat on her own platform. Let me be brutally clear about something. Women who allow men to behave this way around their friends, who sit there silent or play dumb, are actively harmful. And they are part of the problem. When you create a space where toxic men can drop perverted remarks, step over boundaries, and act out of pocket without facing a single ounce of pushback from you as the host, you are co-signing that behavior. You're permitting it. You are signaling to that man that his disrespect is welcome at your table, and you are signaling to your female friends that their safety and dignity are secondary to keeping the peace with a fucking scrub. And let's add another layer to this particular situation. This man and this woman in another live, the first one on July 29th, casually dropped a slur that I had never heard her use before while she was interacting with that guy on the stream, showing to me that that's normal rhetoric between the two of them. And I'm anti-racist. I'm anti-racist with BIPOC children, and I happen to be mixed native. So I'm looking at this entire dynamic thinking, what the fuck am I doing here? And I immediately left. Because I'm not going to be in presence with people like this. And what I've now learned is possibly that woman was not someone I need to keep as a friend. So that's why I'm making this now, and I'm just kind of unpacking it all with you, because it's like when you realize that people around you are co-signing racial slurs being used or sexist remarks and narcissism and then gaslighting red flags like this, you need to recognize that it's not a space you belong in and that the people are not in alignment with your moral compass, and you need to get out of there. So when someone shows you that their moral compass allows them to casually throw around slurs and turn a blind eye to the sexualized disrespect aimed at one of their friends, they've shown you everything about who they are. There's really not much else you can do or say. So I talked to my daughter and another close female friend right after I left that stream, and I told them straight up why I was upset. I made sure the message was passed back to the host. I will not sit in anyone's live stream where that kind of intolerable, low vibrational behavior is permitted, period. You do not need to keep people in your life who do not align with your moral compass. That's the end of the line statement. You do not owe loyalty to friends who play blind and deaf when men disrespect you in their presence. If your friendship requires you to swallow disrespect from garbage men so that you don't feel awkward, people are not your friends. This brings me to the bigger picture because none of this happens in a vacuum. Earlier this week, I put out a video calling out the atrocious systemic behavior of modern men specifically naming rape culture, grapers, pedophile protectors, men who have zero respect for consent, this disgusting sharking trend, and the total lack of basic etiquette and manners being exhibited in women's spaces. And what was this response? Was it, wow, Sai, you're right. How can we be better brothers, fathers, and men? Was it, how do we protect our daughters from these predators? No. It was the exact, predictable, rot brained response of a patriarchal society that feels its unearned privilege being threatened. I was threatened with violence. I was told I'm fat. I was told to choose better. I was told to just admit you can't stand him and leave when I haven't even had a man in years. I am literally single and do not date and have been celibate for nearly 7 years. And the reason why is because of things like this. I was labeled unhinged and delusional. And to top it off, a woman hopped in the comments to tell me to shut the fuck up. Notice the pattern? It's always ad hominem attacks. It's always physical insults, threats of violence, and attempts to silence the woman speaking out against abusers who happens to be the messenger. Why? Because when you hold up a mirror to a predator or a predator protector, they cannot argue with the truth of their actions. They don't have a logical defense for sharking. They don't have an argument for why men interject themselves into women's conversations. So they attack your body, they attack your sanity, and they try to scare you into silence. They prove the exact point of the video while trying to debunk it. They demonstrate the very toxicity, fragile ego, and lack of restraint that makes women sick of them in the first place. These weak, perverted pieces of trash had main character syndrome, but the moment a woman refuses to act as an extra in their script, they turn hostile. This country was never great, to be point blank honest, and the men pulling these tactics, they're not brave. They're fragile, weak, and would sell out their own ethics, their own mothers even, in a heartbeat if it guaranteed them a slice of unearned power and the flashy Epstein life. So where does that leave us? How do we navigate this endless sea of entitlement and passive enablers? We prune the tree. My father always taught me the value of keeping a small, tight circle, and the older I get, the more sacred that advice becomes. You do not need a crowd around you if that crowd is full of people who lack a spine. If you have friends in your life who, 1, allow men to speak down to you or sexualize you without standing up, 2, minimize your outrage with, he's just joking, 3, throw around slurs or hold casual bigotries, or 4, tell you to keep quiet to keep the peace, cut the line and let them drift as far away as possible. Because your peace is non-negotiable. Your boundaries are non-negotiable. And I'm not going to shrink my standard. I'm not going to tone down my voice. And I'm certainly not going to sit in an online space where disrespect is passed off as banter and joking. When men show you their red flags, the centering, the fake nice guy routine, the sudden descent into raunchiness, and the violent lash out when rejected, believe them immediately. And when female friends pretend not to see it, leave them behind with the men that they're protecting. Stand firm in your truth, hold your line, and keep your circle sacred. Until next time, on the mind of Sai Marie. Stay sharp, keep your boundaries high, and stop giving passes to people who don't deserve your time or space. As always, remember, the mind is the most important story that we'll ever tell.